Hello mate, with all of the theories, mystery and hype surrounding GGG's expansion for Path of Exile 3.25, the Settlers of Kalguur, I reached out to a ton of my favourite PoE content creators and asked them what their predictions were for the league. And I was definitely surprised by a couple of them. So before sending in their responses, I put together a bingo card that I'm hoping we can tick off as we go. Alright, so first, most obvious, Settlers of Catan. The OG and argument-inducing board game. Now, Chris Wilson said in an interview on Bayclast a while ago that the team do use board games as inspiration.
When we do our design stuff, we have various design toys available that are handy, like paper and pencil and whiteboards, and sometimes board game pieces. So we were having this design discussion at Jonathan's house over a barbecue one day near Christmas, and he happened to have a copy of the board game Carcassonne, which is an awesome board game about a French city. And this involves pieces that can connect together. They basically have the connection points on them. And so while we have connection and square pieces go next to each other, that's about as similar as it gets to Carcassonne. We used the pieces to prototype it. So basically we broke out that board game, sorted all the bits out, and took the pieces that were the right shapes for us to do synthesis prototyping.
And we do know that Chris and potentially others in the team play Catan.
I don't know, it's like let's say there's a board game, I want to play Settlers of Catan. I don't go online and read guides on how to play it before I play the first few games legitimately.
Alright, next up, city building. So it's the genre that we haven't really had in the game. They like to pull from other game genres, and I think its time is now. With a limited number of hints that we got in the teaser.
Ah, Faustus. It'll be a pleasure doing business with you.
It would definitely make sense. Alright, next I'm going with Detonate Dead. I'm feeling confident that someone is going to be asking for DD nerfs. Number 4, boat building. Now this could be something crazy like how you mod out your car in something like Need for Speed, or if we look at the system that they put into Starfield with your shipbuilding system. Very unlikely, but I think it might get a mention. Number 5, fishing. Obviously someone is going to be talking about fishing. I think this is like 100% in the bag. This is going to be a given. Easy bingo win. And last but not least, we've got an alternate mapping system. So this is a bit more of a big speculation. This will be a huge reveal. We'll definitely go into this later in the video. I want to talk about this a little bit more. But the idea being that we're going to have some kind of radical change to the way that mapping works in PoE and potentially in PoE 2. Right, so we've got our bingo card. Now let's get into the meat of the video. Let's hear from everyone and their predictions.
Hey yo, what's up guys, Capmaster here. Sylver asked me to predict for you guys what the next league is. I mean, have you seen that teaser? We just got that red herring of a boat, and I mean, how many times has GGG been baiting that boat league? And a couple of NPCs interacting, so I'ma not make the same mistake as last leagues where I always went off what I saw and what I wanted to believe the next league is, but I'll go by experience and by what I know the GGG devs are passionate about, and I know they love their board games. I mean, you all remember that Synthesis was inspired by the board game Carcassonne, and we've heard them talk about Settlers of Catan on numerous occasions, right? So I am guessing that Settlers of Kalguur is going to be a PoE version of Settlers of Catan, and we'll be able to like invest into certain terrain types and then send our explorers to new islands, and depending on what we find, our investments will pay off. That's my speculation. Of course, my guess is as good as any, so take it with a grain of salt, but let's see what the others have to say.
Hey all, I was asked to speculate on what the Settlers of Kalguur expansion core gameplay loop is going to look like. We're not allowed to talk about fishing on this, unfortunately, so we're going to have to forget about all the things about fishing and instead focus on maybe you'll get some sort of town or settlement. When you run maps, you'll get tradable items that represent calamities that can befall your town, which is basically monster invasions. And then all of those get applied as a batch to the town that you're building. Then that's going to live or die depending on whether you're able to defend it. If you're able to defend it, bingo, you get some sort of prize for it.
Well, I'm definitely feeling an out-of-map mechanic. Out-of-map mechanic, I am 99% certain, and I'll stand on that. But I think overall, it's going to be kind of like a mini island hopping, out-of-map mini Atlas situation. That's what I would guess. If I had to guess, that's what I would go with. But honestly, I haven't the slightest idea.
My prediction is that Settlers of Kalguur is going to be Settlers of Catan, the tabletop game mixed with Legacy Harvest. Instead of pylons, we are going to have windmills and breweries. Instead of life force, we are going to farm wheat and cattle. We'll own land, visit new places, receive a special quest to hire NPCs to work inside our village and trade different resources in different ports for items with new special mods. That's it. Un abrazo.
No matter how many times I watch that trailer, all I can think about is it has to be the start of Path of Exile 2. It's the ending, closing story of a major arc. We're going to start Path of Exile 2 or the start of. We're going to be able to time travel back and forth between time. Alva's going to show up with the guys from Expedition. And, well, honestly, they're just going to be like, Alva's just going to be like, oh my God, where's your sheep? We need wood. We have to build a town. It's harvest all over again. Get the power lines. Then we're going to jump forward in time to Path of Exile 2.
The Settlers of Kalguur is going to be a city building mechanic, and I think it's going to have a bit of a Path of Exile spin on it. I think we're going to need to defend the settlements that we build from onslaughts of monsters.
Settlers of Kalguur will allow us to build minor settlements that build us passive rewards while we go out on quests to unlock various resource types, settlements, nodes, units, and more. It's going to be glorious.
Settlers of Kalguur will hopefully be the expansion that we not only need, but also the one that we deserve. I'm hoping that along with the expansion, we get to see some much needed updates to the Gladiator Ascendancy, as well as some major overhauls to melee. I also think that the keyword for this league will be hopium and no longer copium.
Here goes, Sylver. So my prediction of 3.25 is that everyone before me was completely wrong. GGG, super good at doing weird stuff. Think about Ancestor League, even Expedition League. That was something I don't think any of us predicted, so it's going to be something very strange. Not Settlers of Catan. That would be very boring. As for other stuff, I think we're going to be getting an expansion and a content league, so something like Echoes of the Atlas with a league mechanic on top of it, and then hopefully maybe some skill reworks, gladiator buffs, also nerf DD, please. It's so boring. Actually, you know what? Nerf a lot of stuff. That's what I want, and that's my prediction.
Settlers of Kalguur. It's gotta be fishing. I mean, they've got to do it before Diablo does, right?
All right, no bingo, but not bad at all. Obviously, there's a general theme there. I think everyone's kind of in agreement that, or most of us at least, that there's going to be some kind of resource management or island settlement management where we send off explorers or we venture out on our boat and conquer islands, build things up, and then maybe have to defend them against some kind of wave-based enemy mechanic. Maybe there's some alerts and we have to do it in a certain time frame or something like that. But what are my predictions? So I mainly agree with everyone. However, what I would most like to see would be some kind of nod to PoE 2, kind of like how Travik was talking about. In Try's recent video on the topic, he had a really interesting idea, which is that what if the city that we're building or the settlement that we start ends up becoming quite an important place in PoE 2, like Kingsmarch? We know that the Kalguur and all of our expedition buddies end up there, and we've seen Rog in some of the early gameplay footage. This would be such a great way to connect the two games at this like really critical juncture in Path of Exile and GGG's history, as we're essentially having the last league before PoE 2 launches, or goes into early access at least. And we're going to remember this moment in the game's history for a very long time. A pretty wild theory that I had on top of this would be that 3.25 for PoE 1 is going to set the stage for some kind of destruction of the Atlas of Worlds and the mapping device and our ability to be able to access these realms beyond the real world. This is what will start the downfall of what will ultimately become a very different mapping system in PoE 2. We know that they want to make PoE 2's endgame a lot more grounded. You're less like a uber god deity killing machine and more of someone that's existing in the real world. So what if you were no longer traveling through realms and portals, but actually traveling around the world beyond the continent of Rayclast and around Rayclast, conquering new places and exploring new islands? I think this would set up a really interesting long story arc for PoE 2, where as the players over many patches patches, many leagues, many expansions, we are rediscovering the ability to access the Atlas of Worlds, and the Atlas of Worlds becomes a new frontier that we get to find and discover together. I'm going out on a limb here, and I think that the GGG live show for PoE 1 and PoE 2 will somehow combine the two together. So with the announcements of PoE 1, we'll get announced the league and everything that's happening there, and then they will use that same kind of boat sailing mechanism to explain to us how in PoE 2 we're going to be getting an entirely new mapping endgame system where we're sailing around using our boat to do so. It might just be the PoE 2 endgame reveal that we've been waiting for a long time. Now, this obviously is pure hope. As Jorgen was saying, this is massive hopium, but I'm excited for it. It's a bit of a wild theory, and maybe it will happen. Or perhaps, like Alcohol, you think this whole Settlers of Catan thing is a complete bait. We're not even going to be getting a boat league, and it's going to be something completely different, and GGG are going to subvert our expectations. I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are, what your predictions are, your theories, so let me know in the comments below. On the channel recently, we have done a full Incursion redesign for PoE 2. We're calling Incursion 2.0. It's a fun idea, as well as, of course, we have tons of Ascendancy class design ideas that we've been doing. We had a recent battle with Try, and we've got another one with Try and Dreamcore coming up. So hit like, hit subscribe if you appreciate this kind of content. It massively helps me out, and I would really appreciate it. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone that jumped in, all of the guys that got involved, sent in their clips, and let us know their predictions. Ever since I started the channel, it's been like a huge dream of mine to sort of obviously connect with some of the creators that you and I both love. So if you're not familiar with these guys, definitely go and check them out. Check their channels out. You'll be familiar with most of them, I assume. But if not, all their links are down in the description below. Alright, for this video, that is it. Friends, Exiles, thank you very much for watching. As always, ta-da.